the one thing that caused me to make the worst decisions in my life, that caused many, many things to go wrong, to get worse, and to not heal. The lack of clarity was so comforting. I totaled my boyfriend's car. It was a wreck. There were many, many, many more incidents where I just put myself in danger. It's by God's grace that I'm still here today. Hi everyone, my name is Jean Marie. Welcome to my channel, and today we're talking about how and when and why I quit alcohol back in 2021. It can be a little bit of a sensitive topic, but I hope it inspires somebody out there. Sensitive in a way, at least for me, because I don't know, it opens up a lot of other issues. You know, alcohol can be intertwined with a lot of other issues in your life. So I'm gonna try to stay focused on the quitting part of alcohol and how that's been helpful to me and how I really got to that point of saying no more. So I hope you guys find this helpful. Let's go for it. I had my first taste of alcohol when I was 13. And I cannot believe that because I have a 12-year-old turning 13. But my life and his life, my kids' lives, I get so emotional. My life was so different from theirs. Oh my gosh. I was still sheltered. My mom was quite strict. And, I was well provided. But I was very lonely, and I never realized that until now, that I look back at that, 12-year-old, 13-year-old me. And so, yeah, I tried it first when I was 13. A friend of mine introduced the idea. There's no real implementation of, minors not drinking alcohol in the Philippines. I mean, I'm sure there is on paper, but I don't think they really follow that. Ever since I tried it, it just became a part of my life. It became a part of my fun. It became a part of my party life. Party life starts very young in the Philippines because, like I said, there's no real rules. Funny thing about alcohol is even if you're not, categorized as an alcoholic, it still gives you this sense of dependency. Like, the only way this night out can be fun is if we drank alcohol. Or when work gets too stressed, you look forward to happy hour and unwind and relax. Unwinding and relaxing means alcohol, right? It becomes a part of you. It's such a part of a lot of people's lives. And growing up in the Philippines, actually, the Philippines is a very strong drinking culture. And now that I'm at this point in my life, I really don't like that. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it just is. And even up to now, like, I can still see that. I wouldn't want to raise my kids actually in that type of environment or culture. And I think it's across the board. Literally from the poorest of the poor to the richest, it's the same. They're just drinking different things. But the culture is like fun equals alcohol. Alcohol equals fun. There's no fun if there's no alcohol. Like, it's part of any party, any gathering. Like, I understand that you're probably gonna say it's the same like across the world. But growing up there, I feel like it's different. It's just like, it's like, I don't see that in the States, right? In the States, you get to a certain point in your life where alcohol may still be part of fun and all that, but, people stop making it a priority. You can disagree with me, but I feel like in the Philippines, the alcohol is such a part of the culture, and I'm not for it. I love the Philippines. I don't like that part of it. And so looking back, as I was saying some of those examples in the beginning, I didn't really have a very healthy relationship with alcohol, right? And not everyone who drinks are like me. A lot of people drink alcohol and they're fine. They behave well, they still make good decisions. That wasn't me. And I think it had a lot to do with my vulnerability of what I was maybe going through in life at such a young age. Like I said, I was lonely a lot. I didn't have a strong sense of belongingness. My parents were divorced. I was raised by my mom. My dad was in the picture. He was great, but I didn't have that strong family foundation. My siblings were all grown up, like they were much older than me, so I was really alone a lot. Like it was just me and my mom. She had her boyfriend, she works full time. So really it was just me. And so I leaned a lot on my friends, and friends equal alcohol, I guess, for me at that point. Unconsciously, I didn't really have anything else in my life that became my life, right? My friends, my party culture, my party life, that was what I was living for. That was me when I was younger. And then, of course, I went to college, which was still the same thing, drinking and all that stuff. And then eventually I got married and I had kids. At that point, alcohol wasn't really a big part of my life anymore. We moved to the States, we focused on our careers, we focused on raising our family. So it's not like I was still drinking or going out. Like that wasn't a part of my life anymore. But there would still be occasions like at work, I would drink at parties. When we go to a party with friends, I would have like a few drinks here and there. And it wasn't the same when I was younger. I wasn't getting drunk. I'm a much calmer person when I'm drinking as an adult, especially when I had kids. Like I didn't really get drunk anymore. But it still had an effect on my life, in my marriage. It still had some effect. Fast forward, as I was walking closer to God and going deep in my relationship with Him, I learned more about Him. I had this pressure in myself to, quit alcohol. But then another part of me is like, you don't have to. You're not like an alcoholic. You're not even drinking anymore. Like you barely drink. Like in a year, maybe I'll drink like 3, 5 times. So there was no real reason to quit drinking, because quit what? Like you barely drink anything. And then one day I went out to brunch with some friends. One of my friends, she's a mom, her little girl was there, and her husband and our husbands were all there. We were all just having like a nice, innocent, very wholesome brunch with unlimited mimosas. And she just kept going and going and going. And apparently, she wasn't really eating the food in front of her because she kept just talking and drinking. Long story short, at 3 p.m., she was wasted. Wasted. Like, Ugh, I've never seen anyone that wasted in the longest time. Then I saw her just go through this process of being so out of herself, embarrassing herself, not knowing it. Husband's upset. The little girl has no idea what's going on. We were all trying to protect the kid and hope that she didn't realize that her mom was wasted. I was helping her out in the bathroom. It was chaotic at 3 p.m., mind you. And this was like in a public little town brunch spot and whatnot. So I just, stepped back for a bit and watched all of this unfold. And I was like, no. I've been meaning to quit drinking fully, but again, there was no real reason because it's not like I was drinking. Why would I say I quit drinking when I'm not really drinking that much anymore? After this, I was just like, okay, I quit drinking. Like, I will not have a drop of alcohol anymore. My point there is, no one wants to get wasted like that, especially not during a 11 o'clock brunch with a family and all that. No one, that was not the intention, but it can happen, right? Like, it can accidentally happen because you don't know when too much is too much when you're just like chatting and drinking there. And I would never want to find myself in that situation. So why would I drink if there's a chance that that could happen to me? She didn't mean for that to happen. Like that could have been me. Yes, you can argue self-control and whatnot. Believe me. People argue that all the time. If you're such a good drinker and you can control yourself, good for you. Not everyone is like that. Not everyone has self-control when it comes to alcohol. And I unfortunately fall in that category. And so I just knew right there and then that I'm like, okay, this is my sign. I'm like, no, I cannot be following the Lord and trying my best every day to represent Him well and then risk getting myself in that situation. That was my turning point. And that was April 2021. Oh my gosh, I just turned. So literally 4 years ago. Not a single drop since then. I was rewatching the video and I just wanted to add something. Ultimately, I feel like God led me to this path of really eliminating alcohol out of my life because it was such a critical part of my old self. The old self that I had to die from, the old self that He saved me from, the old self that was going through issues and problems not alongside the Lord, that was going through tough times with the help of alcohol, not with the help of the Lord. And so things just got worse. So, what I'm trying to say is, I feel like God was guiding me to take this one thing out of my life that caused many, many things to go wrong, to get worse, and to not heal. The one thing that caused me to make the worst decisions in my life. Why would I keep that in my life? Even if I wasn't doing those things anymore, making those stupid mistakes, why would I keep this one thing that was such a big part of my old self? Ultimately, that was what God was telling me. And that made me realize, like, yeah, there should be no room in my life anymore for any opportunity for that one thing to trickle in and potentially bring me back. No matter how strong my walk is with the Lord, no matter how I was living such a different life already away from my old self, why would I keep that thing? If that made such a huge difference in my life, if that put me in so much danger, if that made my young vulnerable self feel even worse. And so now let me talk to you about like the adjustments I had to do. So like I said, it's not like I'm drinking out every weekend and I'm still hanging out with friends who drink every day or every week. So it's not like it's very hard for me to stop drinking. I wasn't drinking anymore anyway. But it was hard because people always knew me as someone who drank. And when we have parties, which we still attend parties once in a while, especially at work at that time, like there would be happy hours and all that. And people don't get it when I say I'm not drinking. Like they're like, just have a glass. It's just one glass. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. Like, it was hard at first saying no because they knew you as someone who drinks. So, what I did was really stand firm. Like, no, I'm not drinking anymore. Like, just stick with it. They're going to stop asking. They will stop asking at some point. Thankfully, like, no one will really like force you to drink alcohol, especially in a work setting. So you just say no. I think the struggle there is everyone has a drink in their hand and you don't. So I try to just get a mocktail or, a club soda. You'd be surprised if you ask a bartender to make you a good mocktail, they actually will happily do so. That was my go-to. Mocktails and really just standing firm on your no. Like, no, no. I don't care who you are. If you're my friend, you're not gonna force this down my throat. At some point, people just stopped asking. People just knew me as someone who doesn't drink anymore. It has changed my life. The first time I went to a party at work where there was dancing, loud music, everybody was drinking. It was hard at first. And then I was like telling myself, enjoy the music because I actually do love music and I love to dance. I'm not very good at it, but I do enjoy dancing and to music that I like. And I was able to enjoy the night. Like I stayed out late with just my mocktail and danced the night away with no alcohol. And it was so much fun because everything was so clear. Nothing was blurry. Watching everyone who's tipsy and, not 100% and looking at them and they're like saying things that they will probably regret the next day or doing things that they probably wouldn't do if they were sober in front of their coworkers. Like, I'm so happy that I'm 100% clear and sober and enjoying the music. So that actually unlocked something new to me that I was like, oh, I can have fun without alcohol. And then we attended a wedding in Tuscany where everybody drank. That was all of our friends from the Philippines. We were in Italy, so there was like overflowing wine. And I was fine. I had fun. I enjoyed. My husband also doesn't drink, so it actually helps. He is allergic to alcohol. Now he has company, and we both can enjoy each other's company not drinking. There's that, and there's nothing worse than waking up the next day, not only with a hangover, but also looking back the night before and you can hardly remember anything. Did I say it right? Was this okay? Regretting what you said, regretting what you did, and you're like unsure if it was okay. Like, I hated that feeling. And now I'm like, I don't have that feeling because I remember everything crisp and clear. So since then, I don't miss alcohol. Not at all. There's really no reason to miss it. I never liked the taste of alcohol. I always enjoyed the feeling of being relaxed. I think why I depended on it when I was younger, aside from, just the influence around me, was also because like I said, I was lonely and I don't think I was really happy with my life. And that allowed me to be more careless and putting myself at risk without feeling guilty that I did that. Almost like gambling on my life. Like, oh, if I die, it's okay. Like, that's so sad to say. I've always had that part of me growing up where I just wanted to end things. That's a different story of my life, and we're not going to get into that today. But I'm just saying that's also probably why I leaned into alcohol a lot growing up. The lack of clarity was so comforting for someone whose reality and real life wasn't the best at that time in my life, at that point. And so when everything is blurry and fun and nothing makes sense, I lived for that. Now life is so good. Life is so, so good. And I'm so grateful. Like, my reality and my reality is so good, and I'm so grateful to God. And so I guess I want to end this with, if you're struggling with alcohol addiction, I know my story is not, exactly like that. And so I'm not going to say I can relate to you because I was never dependent on it. But if you are living that life of like, having some dependence on alcohol, whether you're an alcoholic or not, I just want to tell you that there's life outside of that, and it can be so beautiful if you allow yourself to experience it. Don't let alcohol take that experience away from you. Enjoy the company of your friends and family without having that hit. I'm not saying you don't have to stop drinking entirely. People always ask, as a Christian, do I have to stop drinking alcohol? Is drinking alcohol bad? And we always go back to, well, Jesus drank wine. Drinking alcohol is not bad, but drunkenness is bad, right? Having a sip of wine is not necessarily a bad thing, but because I knew myself and my relationship with alcohol wasn't the best, I was getting drunk most of the time I consumed alcohol, because I honestly at that point I just didn't get why I would drink if I wasn't gonna get at least tipsy. Like, what's the point? That's how I mean, I still agree with that. So that's why I'm gonna stop drinking, because like, I don't want to get drunk. Drunkenness is a sin, not drinking alcohol. And someone told me this that really was super helpful. Like, there are just things that are okay for some people and not for others. If you're convicted that you need to stop drinking alcohol, maybe you should listen to that. If you're not convicted at all and you don't think you're doing anything wrong, it's not really affecting your life, you don't really get drunk, it doesn't really affect you or anything, then that's fine. Maybe you're one of those people where it's okay to drink alcohol and it doesn't really lead you to drunkenness. There's no real right or wrong, like whether you should stop drinking or not just because you're a Christian. I'm not in the position to tell you that. Like, that is between you and the Lord. If He's convicting you, and again, drunkenness, that's the one that's not a question. Like, you shouldn't be getting drunk. But whether or not someone is allowed to drink alcohol, like, that's really not the thing in question here. It's drunkenness. I do appreciate that the culture today, especially here in the States, a lot of people don't drink anymore. Like, I go to company events and I meet my coworkers and half of them don't drink. And we're all having like mocktails, which is amazing. Like, thank you. Like, people are really leaning towards, better lifestyles and all that stuff. Yeah, I hope this was helpful for anyone. I hope it inspires you guys to maybe live a life without alcohol, cut it off fully. I would love to keep the conversation going. I think it's a very interesting topic. I think a lot of people think about quitting alcohol, but they just cannot seem to do it. If you have any stories or questions, let me know. Have a great day. Bye.